It's here. For those watching in the future, it's early February 2026. Jackson Goldstone's OneUp Signature Grip has launched and it's released for the public. Finally, I can share some of these cool images that we shot back in November last year. Full disclaimer, this and the majority of my product walkthrough BTS things are supposed to include the setups and insights to what's going on at the shoot. We had that for this. OneUp were kind enough to let me take a few minutes here and there while shooting these products to show what happens on set, how we do it. We're often surprised at the intricacy or the wildness, for lack of a better word, of what these sets end up looking like and how the finished product doesn't represent that at all. So the idea of these videos is to show what's happening on set a bit, as well as the final product and anything else that people may want to suggest in the comments of these videos. So unfortunately for now, you're stuck with my mug on screen and images of the shoot. And then to mix it up a little bit, I did an interview with the engineer at OneUp who worked with Jackson and bringing these grips to life. For this shoot, the brief was to shoot on white or off white, and with the white signature color grip. Jackson's grip comes in various colors, but his signature colorway is the white. Doing that was a little trickier than some things. White is really reflective, and getting the light to hit it while still allowing you to see the details in there, in the highlights and the shadows, showing all the intricacies and shapes that are happening in there. It was a little bit more of a challenge than just a black grip. The features are somewhat exaggerated compared to a lot of grips that are out there, and that's something that Jackson wanted in the grip, and I can only imagine that allows him to ride with a bit of a looser feel on the hands and on the bars while maintaining a secure connection to the bike. This isn't the first grip that I've shot, and I will say that grips are one of my favorite mountain bike products to shoot. There's a lot of character to them, and often the way the light falls across them is something that I enjoy. So when we came to shooting these, we rolled to a technique that I've used in the past. The grip is positioned to make it look like it's floating above the surface, just to give a little bit of depth and a bit of movement in the image rather than just sitting flat on a surface. The first grips I shot at OneUp were done on angled plinths, and those are some of my favorite photos that we've taken over the years. And then more recently, we shot those same grips with this technique where the grip is positioned in a way that it has a bit more dynamic movement in the frame rather than just up and down. Features of the grips that were a focus of this shoot were obviously the palm bulge. It's as you'll learn from the interview with the engineer coming up, it's one of the features that Jackson was stoked the most on. He called it the arm pump killer, and found it really helped him with comfort on the bike, removing vibration from the bike into his hands. And it's also done a bit differently to what else is out there. It's quite a bulge, it's quite prominent, and that creates a lot of deep recesses where those rubber extrusions come up off the core, and showcasing that was fun and also important because it is such a big part of the grip. And also the reason it was fun is it has all these different shapes intertwining, and the way the light hits all that is really fun to shoot and play with. Something else that's obviously prominent on many grips is the type of knurling over the rest of the body. These have a square or a pyramid kind of knurl to them rather than a diamond, and it's a little more aggressive than I've seen. I think there is another grip out there that has a square that is similarly pronounced like this. But yeah, the way that that integrates with the palm bulge and the finger ridges underneath was something that we obviously needed to show. And because of the more aggressive nature of the knurling, it made for a really interesting contrast as the light fell across it and dips down into the grooves there. The end cap was another focal point for the shoot. This end cap is a little different to what's out there. It's a little larger in the outer area and has a bit more of an aggressive angle coming down to the main body of the grip. That whole end cap piece is also a firmer material for the durability aspect. You can't really show durability or firm versus soft in a photo like this. You would need to play with props to really do that. This shoot was focused on showing the grip in the best light possible, having it look as good as possible, versus using props to play with marketing angles and tongue-in-cheek sort of things like that. Instead, we focused on that end piece in just showing it in all its glory. It's large, it's proud, and you want to see the details that are involved around that. Moving around to the underside of the grip are the finger flanges. They're also more aggressive than you see on a lot of grips that are out there. What I'm more familiar with is more of a small ridge of rubber or a waffle of rubber underneath there, and typically those tend to wear out and rip off pretty easily, and they do feel good and secure you a little bit. But when you look at this one in these images, these finger ridges are obviously going to hold onto you a bit more. You can really wrap your hand around that and use that to your advantage on the trail. So we had to have the light come across those in a way that has them stand up off the rest of the surface. So yeah, it was important to show all of that when we shot this grip, and I think we've achieved that. I'm stoked on what we got here. I think we achieved our goals in showing how all those different components of the grip are interacting with each other, and while also giving them time to breathe and have their own sort of time in the limelight. This shoot went off without any issues. We were really focused on keeping the white grips clean. It's surprising how little dirt will show up when you're shooting a product in a studio setting. Especially a white grip will pick up dirt that you can't even work out how. Surprisingly, when it came to retouching these, the white grips were really good. There weren't really any issues. As you can see here in these images, very little cleanup was needed. The gum, surprisingly, was horrendous. The gum grip had all sorts of stuff stuck to it and was more involved in the retouching process. Nothing crazy, but surprised me as I was getting into it. I really expected the white to have some things on there that I wasn't seeing on screen from shooting. I thought once I zoomed in on the computer during processing and retouching that I'd see stuff that we had missed. Not the case. Get to the gum, think that's going to be all sweet, and it was a mess. So maybe we should have been more cautious with handling of the gum. I don't recall thinking about that picking up dirt the same way the white was. We were really sensitive to the white and the fact that it's going to be easily dirtied, and I don't believe we were like that with the gum. So maybe that was the problem. Either way, a bit of touching up in post work and everything's all tickety boo. The second shoot for Jackson's signature grip launch material was done on his bike that he raced after winning world champs in 2025. The bike landed at OneUp HQ with the grips that he raced on it, so they were nice and dirty from a few runs. I don't know how many runs he'd done on these. But yeah, so it arrived with everything that was on it the last race that he did, which was pretty cool to see. It's pretty sick as a World Cup fan, massive World Cup fan, to see the bike that won the overall for the year before and to work with it and shoot it. We were focused on the OneUp parts and the grip in particular. The reason for this shoot being to gather any material that could be used in the launch of the signature grip for Jackson. So the grips were the focus. There was a banner that the senior designer at OneUp, Claire Ryan, had as the main feature for the shoot. So we had to get the bars in a certain position with the grip being prominent to be used in sort of launch pieces in banners and stuff like that. I will say handling the bike and looking at it in different angles and checking out all the little intricacies of it was really fun as a World Cup nerd. In particular, I was quite impressed by the integrated weight setup that has now been established on his bike underneath the bottom bracket, rather than just strapping lead weights there. There's a really clean, pro looking setup down there. I don't know if that's going to go into production or not, but how they've done it is so polished and neat, and it really shows the professionalism of teams at this level, rather than slapping something on there that's only a temporary measure to get what they want. Then once they figure that out, they polish it up and make it look like it's supposed to be there. So that was really cool. It was a thrill, as always, to work with the team at OneUp and to shoot these images and be a small part in the launch of Jackson's signature grip. For now, because I don't have the BTS stuff, as I mentioned at the start, I'm going to jump over to an interview that I did with the engineer that brought these to life with Jackson. That engineer is Peter Skarsgard. So let's jump into that.
So yeah, the grip launched yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
And there's some things about it that are similar with ones that are out there already, but they're also kind of different. And one pretty prominent one, I would say, is that palm bulge.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of the positioning of the palm bulge, and because it's not central, and I think some of the examples that are out there already, they're pretty like central in a neutral position. This one seems to be offset, particular to how Jackson may have wanted it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So part of it was inspecting the grips that we had seen, like Jackson's old grips that he had worn through, and where he had wear patterns on them. And we really wanted it to fill kind of the center, that sort of concave section of your palm, but then also kind of lock into the side flange at the outside edge. And so what it does is it kind of like locks the heel of your palm into that little space between the edge of the palm pad and the outer flange, and it really locks your hand in. It doesn't move. And then the palm pad is a little bit taller than you might see on some of our competitors' grips. And the reason for that is that we really wanted it to deform nicely, kind of with your hand, but not in sort of a squishy, sort of wobbly way. Some people think that like a tall pattern like that is going to kind of feel like it's moving under your hand, and we wanted to avoid that. And so that's why it's prominent where we want it, but the rest of the grip is kind of a tight knurl to keep the rest of your contact with the bar solid.
Okay. And is that like that pattern that's in that palm bulge, is that part of holding the form together a bit more in your hand?
Yeah. So the pattern was an interesting one. We initially wanted to make it sort of a standout sort of feature and have like some sort of either like a word mark logo or something in there. And we played around with a few different options, but we ended up settling on this kind of triad pattern because we needed something that would deform evenly. So whether you push it to the right or the left or forward or back, and between the left and the right grip, it needed to be mirrorable. And it kind of needed to behave the same no matter which direction it was being pushed,
Right.
because you want your grip to kind of feel predictable in that way. So um, that was kind of how we ended up settling on that sort of geometric pattern rather than any
Okay.
other sort of logo that we might have talked about initially.
That was definitely a focal point of the shoot as well. Just so much going on there, and it was unique to look at. But I was sure it was more than like, this looks cool, let's do it like this. It
Yeah,
had to have more
definitely.
function to it.
Yeah. We went through a lot of, and it was interesting too because it was partly an engineering challenge, and it was also partly kind of a graphics and marketing and aesthetics challenge. So we worked closely with Claire, our graphic designer, and the marketing team to kind of figure out something that would work with the physical properties that we were looking for, but then also tie into kind of the story of the grip that we were looking to tell and the kind of race aesthetic and all of that stuff too. So yeah, it was kind of a multi-faceted effort in that sense.
And those, I guess those sort of triangle pieces allow the taller bits to hold, because it's pretty deep, hey? Like the knurling on the grip and all the different pieces are, I'm not a grip expert or anything, but they look deep to me. They look deeper than stuff that I'm sort of used to grabbing onto.
Yeah, for sure. They are deep, definitely. And the key there is that they're also deformable. So Jackson called this the arm pump killer. And he, from the very beginning, he was really like adamant on that being in there. Like the first samples had it and he was like, this is kind of my favorite part and this needs to stay. And we troubleshooted a few kind of manufacturing concerns just with how deep that the rubber has to shoot into the tool. It's like several millimeters deep and kind of a small section. So we were having some challenges getting the material to fill all the way. And we were kind of thinking about some other options to maybe like bring the base of that pattern up a little bit so that it's filled in a little more and it's not quite as deep all the way down. And he was like, no, we got to keep it this way. We got to kind of figure out how to make it as it is. And we did eventually. So,
was that just
like
going back and forth with the factory to sort of work it out?
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of troubleshooting the tool back and forth and trying a few different things and material flow properties and a lot of that's on the factory's end. But
yeah, I was going to ask. So when problems like that come up, how much is it the factory going, this is all we can do, and you saying, well, that's it? Or do you go back and say, no, what about trying this or that?
Yeah, it depends. I can't get too much into it, but for sure, like there's some times where we'll make a compromise. Like the factory will want a change to the design that'll make it more manufacturable. Like let's say it's easier to shoot material into this section if we change the geometry in this way. And we'll kind of push back and be like, we can do this to an extent, but it's got to be, there's certain things that we have to keep. So maybe we can play around with another area where we have a bit more leeway while keeping kind of that, like in this case, that tall palm pad was like the thing that we really wanted to not sacrifice.
It was the palm pad in particular that Jackson was calling the arm pump killer.
Yeah.
Right.
So he felt that really dampened the vibration that he was feeling through his hands on a race run.
Cool.
Yeah.
The knurling around the whole grip, not just the palm piece, is, I would say, aggressive, I guess I'd use as a term to characterize it. but they're also really sticky. And shooting them, it's not easy to show something that's sticky without, getting funny with props and stuff. But
Yeah.
looking at it in the images, you can still see that there's a lot of mechanical grip going on there.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on sort of ratios between like how much sticky or chemical grip versus mechanical grip come into play, and like, are you looking for one or the other? Or is it really just like we like this stickiness and he wants it this sort of grippy mechanically?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. It's an interesting way of sort of framing it too. I think our focus going into this project was more on the mechanical side of things. Like there were some features that Jackson really wanted to be present.
Yeah.
Just from things he had kind of accumulated, thoughts from other grips and other things he'd tried. He also rides with gloves, and so the sort of stickiness of the compound isn't quite as important to him. Although when we ranked his kind of aspects of a grip, in terms of importance, a soft compound was near the top, but sticky wasn't necessarily involved in that directly in his feedback. We just really wanted to make it sticky because we think it has really good sort of tactile feel to people who ride gloveless. And obviously this is a grip that we're selling to the masses. It's obviously made for Jackson, but we want kind of your average customer and other people to enjoy it as well. And so that's where the sort of chemical grip, as you mentioned, kind of comes in. And we tried a few different materials and ended up settling on that one. But the mechanical properties and the geometric features were really what drove the design of the grip.
Yeah, it's like when you say that he said the arm pump killer, that's why I asked to confirm the palm bulge, because all that mechanical grip has to help him be able to ride with a lighter hand, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jackson's mentioned in his release pieces for this that they're quite focused on his racing needs. And that made me think when I was hearing him say that there must be a freeride Jackson grip coming at some point for the non-racers out there.
Yeah.
When are we seeing that?
Yeah, that's a funny one too, because he's riding this grip on most of his bikes, all of his trail bikes, his downhill bikes. Like, I would be interested to hear what, if anything, he would change if he was to make a grip for, let's say, trail riding or free ride or any other discipline. Yeah, exactly. But like, short of maybe his dirt jumper, I think he's pretty stoked on this grip on all his bikes. So, you'd have to ask him, but I don't know if he would change much. I think he's pretty fired up on it. Yeah.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was just like, oh, that's got to be asked for sure, because
yeah,
I'm sure
definitely.
other people heard it and were like, oh, this is his race grip.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can't confirm or deny whether there's more down the pipeline, but but yeah, I like I said, he's stoked on him for trail riding and other disciplines as well. So I don't think it's although it's focused on racing and was designed around racing, I think it's still a sweet grip that like I've been riding on my trail bike for the last few months as well, and I've been really enjoying it too. So
cool.
I think there's more to it than just a race focus for sure.
There was that's for sure. There was I mean, it was what was I going to say? It was pretty fun shooting white on white, like a grey backdrop. We don't get to do that a lot. We usually have sort of black or sort of deeper coloured stuff to shoot that one up. But this one was white. And then I see online a lot of people complaining about how a white grip is such a bad thing for a mountain bike.
I know.
You know why Jackson was so drawn to the white?
Well, yeah, it's funny. And I loved our press release and in the way it was just completely black and white. And all the photography kind of leaned into that as well. Yeah. I think some people miss that we actually do make them in other colors. Like you don't have to buy them in white. But Jackson was stoked on the white because it's flashy, it's bright, and it kind of matches like a lot of his kits that he wears throughout the season.
True, he does wear a lot of white parts on his kits.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially even like in Worlds too, for example, like his bike's going to be red and white. And so it ties into a lot of things that way. And it's just kind of it's the race colorway, right? Like it's gonna stay that color for less than a ride, but it's pretty cool looking, especially like on those new bike photos and bike checks. Like the way they popped in bike checks, people were asking about them all season,
Yeah.
and like trying to figure out what they were, and eventually they had OneUp logos on them, and so it was kind of obvious that we were developing a grip with him at one point. But like that buzz that kind of happened around them throughout the World Cup season was just as much of it as anything else was, I would say.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
and you can get them in tan, which is a great color too, or gum.
yeah, yeah, and all of the colors aside from the black, obviously, are kind of specific to this grip. Like that, we picked them to kind of tie into Jackson's style a little bit, and be sort of separated from the rest of our products.
Oh, cool.
So they're a bit unique in that way too.
Nice one.
Yeah. All right. Good
All right,
chatting.
well, yeah, I'll catch you around at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk soon.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah. Thanks, AJ. Bye.
So that's shooting the Jackson Goldstone grip for the launch materials in late 25, early 26. If you have any questions, fire them down in the comments below. If you like what you see and you want to see more, let me know. My goal is to show more behind the scenes and the finished product as well, of what is going on these shoots with OneUp and other brands as well. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Maybe even we can get OneUp to come in and help if there's any questions about the grip that come up from any of this. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers. And white is just, especially a sticky white substance, is, oh, that's so bad. And white is especially a sticky white rubber, especially, oh my god, especially a grip